Hey everybody, I'm Scott Weichel. You're listening to My Kind of Country right here on Fish Creek Radio. I'm not going to lie to you folks. Charlie Rich is one of my very favorite artists of all time. I've loved his career ever since way back in the Groove and Sundays, right through Smash, and of course the classics, Behind Closed Doors, The Most Beautiful Girl, and I just love his music. Pictures and Paintings is one of my favorite albums of all time, and we lost him way too soon. But there's some really great things happening because his son has continued on and has a fine career of his own, and he's out there just making wonderful music. And he's also been a big part of a brand new tribute album to Charlie Rich called "Feel Like Going Home: The Songs of Charlie Rich." And I'm so happy to have him on the show today. It's a true honor. Would you please welcome Charlie Rich Jr. to My Kind of Country? Charlie, how are you tonight?
I'm just great, Scott. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, sir.
Well, I'm very excited to have you on the show, and that's no bull. I'm excited.
It means a lot to me. Thank you.
I've seen you on Country's Family Reunion and so many of these different shows, and man, I tell you, it's tough for a kid, to have a famous, parent that can make it in the music business. But you've done extremely well,
Thank you.
on your own as a musician, as a singer, and it's just amazing. And you pay tribute to your father so well. You do his songs so well, and there's, he looks so much like him too. It's uncanny.
Well, you were right that he left this world too soon. He was 62 when he died, and I just a day doesn't go by that I don't think about him. And it would be great if he were here to do these songs, but I just think the songs are so good, and there's a whole new generation out there that really may not be familiar with Charlie Rich, and it's worth their while to check him out because he was one of the most soulful singers, piano players, and songwriters, I think, of all time. I'm a little biased, but he the older I get, the more talented my dad seems to get. When I try to do those songs of his, they are rangy as they can be, man.
Oh yeah.
And, it's hard work to get up there and make it sound effortless.
Yeah, his stuff wasn't easy to do, and your mom too, and she wrote some fantastic songs. She wrote a lot of your dad's songs. My gosh, it's what a talented family.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. My mother, of course, my dad gave her so much credit for his success. In fact, without her, he probably would never have gotten a record deal because he was painfully shy. And she snuck a tape and took it over to Bill Justice at Sun Studio in Memphis, Tennessee. And, Dad was mad at first, and then he said, well, hey, this is my shot. So that's where he started being a professional musician, where he could actually back up other artists like Carl Mann and Billy Lee Riley and Jerry Lee Lewis and on, all the Sun people over there, the rock and roll originators. So if it wasn't for Mom, Dad probably wouldn't have ever heard of it. He'd be farming,
Man, that's wonderful. And, I love going, and I always tell people, if they want to get into Charlie Rich, I tell them, go back and listen to Mohair Sam, go listen to Wash My Hands in Muddy Water, go listen to Double Dog Dare Me. That's the stuff. That stuff is just gold. The Smash recordings that he did at that time, and nothing against, Behind Closed Doors, and when he went into that, that phase, he kind of shifted gears, like a lot of artists did, and he did it extremely well. He's obviously, I'm sure he's most well known for those songs, but I'll tell you, I tell people this about Buck Owens.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I'm sorry. I tell people this about Buck Owens. Oh yeah, the guy from Yeehaw. I'm like, no, you need to go back to the '60s.
Oh yeah, man, that Bakersfield stuff. Yeah, Buck was awesome. Hey, Dad, I'm glad you know all this stuff about him because the Smash sessions are some of my favorite stuff. The early Sun stuff, I think a lot of it was age appropriate, and it had to do with how he was feeling at the time. You feel different when you're a young man, and then when you get a few years on you, you have different life experiences. And I think that had a lot to do with it. plus my mother started working with him on lyrics and stuff. She wrote, they co-wrote some stuff, and there's just a breadth of material there. I'm handling the publishing now for our families, and we got plenty of songs. So if anyone's looking for a new hit in the country market or rock and roll or whatever, we got plenty of stuff.
Well, that's got to be a deep well to draw from, without a doubt. Before we talk about this tribute album, I wanted to ask you a little bit about Pictures and Paintings. This album, I'm curious to know if this album was kind of meant to be a relaunch for Charlie's career, or was it kind of a farewell for his career?
Well, I think it was one of those, I want to do what I want to do. I want to do the kind of material that I listened to when I was growing up. That was part of it. And, of course, the author, Peter Guralnick, co-produced it. And basically, Peter just said, Charlie, you know what, just do the kind of stuff that you want to do. And it turned out he got great critical acclaim and stuff. Honestly, I don't know if Dad wanted to go out and tour as much as he just wanted to go in and record some beautiful music. He had mixed emotions about the road, only because, as you get older, the road gets a little bit harder.
Oh, yeah.
There and compete with the young guys, but he always loved the music. Sometimes he had trouble with the music business part. He just, he didn't hate it, but it got in the way. And Dad was the kind of guy, he wanted to sit in the corner with a piano and just find the next right chord and work on harmonies and lyrics and stuff like that. So he totally loved the creative end of it, but the business part, that's where the work began.
Yeah. Van Morrison said, the music is for the soul, the music business is not.
Yeah, man. It's like, I don't know if it's left brain, right brain, but, it doesn't seem to work. Most musicians that I know aren't real great at business.
Yeah, that's true enough. And unfortunately, a lot of them surround themselves with people that are very good at it, but they, not for them, they do it for themselves,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we've had it, I've heard a lot of stories about that and experienced it earlier in my career.
But that is a great album. And truly, it's one of if there was it's one of the probably the top 5 albums that are my favorites of all time, and that's Pictures and Paintings.
I love the song the way he does "Am I Blue?"
Oh yeah,
the old standard. I mean, it's just, and you can tell the voicings that he's playing on the piano that he didn't just like jazz. I mean, he could play jazz with the best of them. And I think one of the things, and I emphasize this on my website, is that my father loved all kinds of music. Mm-hmm. And he absolutely, he could find the beauty in a polka. And that's one thing. I remember when I was younger, I heard this musician. I said, he's not very good. I don't like that kind of stuff. And he kind of got on to me, because he said, no, man, you're not seeing it right. You need to look at what he's doing, and kind of explain to me some of the stuff that the guy had chops, but it were the kind of athletic abilities on the keyboard that I wasn't familiar with. And I said, oh, yeah, okay, I see it. But he kind of gave me an appreciation for that, to not really look down at any particular form of music. It's like, it's all good,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and that's sage advice. There's it don't matter what kind of music, if you like it and it's good, then if that's what moves you, then that's what you want to listen to.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that his version of "Feel Like Going Home" on this album was probably the inspiration for the title of this new tribute album.
Absolutely, and what's so cool about this tribute album is that the Phillips family, the very people that started my father in the music business, Sam Phillips' family, they kind of put this thing together with a great producer named Michael Donallo, who is a wonderful rockabilly producer. And you can tell it's labor of love. It really is just a soulful kind of a record. We didn't necessarily go for super big stars, on Music Row. That would have been easy to do, but they kind of wanted to do it the way they thought Sam Phillips would do it, and that was to go handpick some of the most soulful cats. For years before Behind Closed Doors, my father, he had kind of a cult following, people that really loved his music, but, it was a handful of people compared to the success that he had later on with Behind Closed Doors. But, we kind of did that. We got some really cool people, very soulful guys. One guy we got is Jim Lauderdale, who is Mr. Americana, one of the greatest writers out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we got Shooter Jennings on the album. We even got me on it.
We got you.
Twist my
You did Break Up, man. That's one of my favorites. I love it.
Yeah, that is such a cool song. That's one my dad wrote for Jerry Lee Lewis, because back in the day he was trying to get cuts, so he could feed a family. He was trying to get by cuts, get somebody to record the song,
right,
and hopefully make him a lot of money. So, and a lot of people used to say, well, Lonely Weekends, it sounds a little bit like Elvis. Well, guess who he was trying to get to record that song? Elvis. So that's what songwriters do. You want to cater it to an artist that might potentially cut it, and of course, then you still want it to be your own. But so sometimes you'll see a little bit of stylization that caters to the person plugging the song to.
Well, I think your dad would have been proud of the album, just from what you said earlier about, you like all types of music. There's many different styles on this album, and there's some people that are very well known and some that are not very well known. But every one of them, they put their own spin on these songs. You mentioned Jim Lauderdale. He just blew away Lonely Weekends. I thought that was just fantastic.
Man. And he's the coolest guy. We had a wonderful launch party, and Jim, bless his heart, as busy as he is, he drove all the way down from Nashville to Memphis and drove right back after the party. So
wow, is that right?
His heart was really into it, and I love the Malpass brothers. I was not that familiar with them.
I was just going to mention them. Yeah, Chris and Taylor, I got to know them. They toured for quite a few years with Merle Haggard opening shows. And I had Chris on the show not too long ago, and they've got some great stuff. Those guys are great. They got the big old pompadours,
They are awesome, man. I'll be honest, the song that they do, Caught in the Middle, I kind of like their version better than the one that Dad cut. 'Cause they put some stuff on it that I didn't really dig, back in the day, but they really found the beauty in the song, and really the harmonies and stuff is just really, really cool.
Yeah, they put a cool spin on it. I am not familiar with Johnny Hoy, but I really liked his version of Don't Put No Headstone on My Grave.
Yeah, he's a soulful cat. I was not familiar with him either. I think he was a friend of Michael Donallo's, the producer, and Michael just does an incredible job on this album. And again, sometimes people ask me, well, what is rockabilly? What does it sound like? If you listen to this album and some of the rockabilly songs on it, that's it. I mean, this guy just captures it.
Yeah,
it's hard to define, but when you hear it, you know it.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, the album, by the way, is available at charliericjr.com, and it's available on Amazon and iTunes and all the usual places on the internet. And it's called "Feel Like Going Home: The Songs of Charlie Rich." And it's one of those albums that you need to pick it up, and you need to sit down with a pair of headphones in a dark room and listen to every track all the way through, because it'll take you on a journey of Charlie Rich's music. And that's the best way I think I could describe this album.
And for those who are inclined to vinyl, it comes in vinyl too.
Oh, it's on vinyl. I got to get that. Yeah. I didn't know that. You got to set me up, Charlie. I didn't know that, man. I love my vinyl.
For what? And right there, it was recorded at Sam Phillips Recording Services right there in Memphis, Tennessee, and using the same old machine that they used way back for Jerry Lee Lewis and Roy Orbison and Carl Perkins. And it's just really cool, man, to have a big old record.
No kidding.
Yeah. is really cool.
Wow, that is fantastic. Well, I am in love with the album. I mean, I'm glad, you know, I never thought your dad got his due, and after he passed away, and for this type of an album to come out, and you're right. I mean, there could have been, you could have got all the A-listers to come on and do all these songs, and there has been some of his songs done on tribute albums through the years. I know Joe Diffie did Behind Closed Doors, did a great version of it.
Yeah.
But this album, it's a soulful, and it's hard to describe, but it's just one of those that just really grabs you, and it makes it really about the music rather than the glitz of it all.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that because I'm proud to be just a small part of it. But I mean, when I listen to Shooter Jennings on there doing Rebound, oh man, it's really incredible. I mean, it's just a wonderful track, and it's got the little Farfisa organ in the background.
Yeah, yeah,
super cool.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to ask you a couple questions about your early career. Somewhere here, I have a record by a guy named Alan Rich. You wouldn't happen to know who that is, do you?
That is my evil brother. No, actually, I went by the name Alan Rich when I first started out because my dad's name was Charlie, and with two Charlies, because I'm a junior, Charlie Alan Rich Jr., and the people over at Epic Records said, no, we can't call you Charlie. We're gonna call you Alan. So I have two albums out as Alan Rich. One, my debut, was just called Alan Rich, and the second one is called Glass Heart on Columbia Records. And then my dad just all of a sudden had a big old hit called Behind Closed Doors. so I ended up going out on the road with him and became his band leader. So I kind of was more in the trenches back then. Then I started doing more arranging and doing some producing myself, and moved out to the West Coast and started playing with all kinds of different people, from Smokey Robinson to Freddie Fender to Billy Swan, Randy Meisner. Just fell into a bunch of different people and started writing some with them, and there you have it.
Wow. Did you play on some of Smokey Robinson's albums?
I actually did background vocals for Smokey. I was on a couple of his albums.
Oh, you were? Wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember which ones?
One is called, the one that I really like is called SR2. Well, anyway, it's the initials of between him and Marvin Gaye. I guess SR to MG or something like that is the name of it. But it's a really cool album because it was right after Marvin Gaye was killed.
Oh, okay.
And they were real close and stuff. So there's some really cool tracks on there. That's a great album.
I got to check that. I love Smokey Robinson. That's the reason I asked. I have to check that out. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's something to do with the initials. It's like I think it's from SR to MG.
Yeah, I think I know the one you're talking about. Yeah. I think I have it. I got to pull that out. That's really cool. I did not know that. That's really cool. So, what was it like working with your dad on the road?
Well, he was the best. I mean, he really taught me how to be a band leader. And basically, you treat your musicians like fine gold because that's who brung you. Those are the guys that make you sound good or not. So he really taught me to respect and treat musicians well on the road. And, I'd like to think that, I was Freddie Fender's band leader for years and years, and hopefully I treated everyone with respect and, paid them well and all that kind of thing. But yeah, he was great on the road. I mean, that's one thing, when I was younger, growing up, Dad was on the road a lot, so I didn't get to see him that much. But when I got to be about 17 or 18, I started going on the road some with him, and we really got to know each other better, in a father and son / musician kind of a vibe.
Sure.
And, we had great times. I mean, he would listen to all kinds of stuff on the road. And, when you get two musicians together driving down the road Lincoln Continental or something. Dad would turn me on to a lot of good music. So.
Oh man, that's great. That's great. And what precious memories, you know?
Yeah. I miss the fella.
Yeah, I know. I lost my dad some years ago, and I know exactly what you're saying. You know, it's something that never there's a hole that can never be filled there. You know, and but
Yeah, particularly for the family.
oh yeah,
it's very traumatic. You can't envision all the ways that you miss someone who was like that. My dad, he was really a very kind man, a good guy.
do you have brothers and sisters?
Well, I had two sisters and a brother, and they both all of them have passed away in the last few years.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
The last one standing, I'm afraid. But
Wow.
yeah, I had two sisters, both who used to sing with Ronnie Millsap and Conway Twitty, and they were excellent singers. Laurie Rich and Renee Rich, and my brother Jack Rich, and he passed away just a couple of years ago.
Oh
He was a
man,
great keyboard player too. So we're all music folks, every one of us.
musical family. Yeah. Did you learn to play piano from your dad?
I think I learned mostly from being around it. He never sat down and actually showed me how to play. I pretty much learned to play by ear, and then learned how to do like the Nashville number system. As far because you got to communicate with other musicians, so you have to have some type of literacy. If you're gonna communicate with other musicians on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And the Nashville number system is pretty profound. I mean, it makes it very easy to transpose keys really quickly.
Absolutely.
So you just go by numbers instead of
Yep.
notes.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, you have a very interesting voice too, and I've noticed that when I listen to you do one of your dad's songs, it's very authentic, and it's almost kind of eerie. I'll be very honest with you. And then when I listen to some of your solo recordings, you have your own voice too, and I think that's such a cool thing that you have that kind of control that you're able to emulate your dad's sound, but you've also got your own sound too.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that because we do a lot of shows, and actually Doug Sahm, who was with the Sir Douglas Quintet, is the one that said, "Look, you need to call yourself Charlie Rich Jr. instead of just Alan Rich." He said, "Your dad's not here anymore, and those fans out there, they're going to be much more likely to come out to a show and do some of his songs and kind of give them that. So yeah, I do my own songs. I just had a song recently recorded by John Legend. So I'm a songwriter. I work at that. But when I do my dad's songs, you want to kind of do it similar to the way that he did it because it was Charlie Rich.
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
knew what he was doing.
Well, I respect you for that, and you guys look so much alike. Did you go prematurely gray like he did too, or
I sure did.
did you family trait, huh?
Yeah, it happened. It seemed like overnight. It just happened. I guess when I was in my early 20s.
I'll be darned. Well, hey, at least you got your hair though, right?
Well, it's hanging on. It's probably getting a little thinner, but no, it's still got to have the hair.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, you'll see Charlie Rich Jr. on Country's Family Reunion and so many of the great shows that you see on RFD TV, and you can pick up this wonderful album, Feel Like Going Home, at charliericjr.com, Amazon, iTunes, all the wonderful places where you can buy music. And don't just download a track, get the whole album. And now that I know that it's on vinyl, get the vinyl because I'll tell you, vinyl sounds better, and
Absolutely.
I can't wait to listen to that album on vinyl. And Charlie, do you have some tour dates in the works?
Well, we're slowing down because it's getting close to winter. But December 10th, I'm playing at the International Rockabilly Hall of Fame. It's a one-man show. I'll be doing stories and music. So come on down to Jackson, Tennessee, to the Rockabilly Hall of Fame.
All right, fantastic. And we'll be sure to share that information on our Facebook page too. And
Awesome.
we're going to be playing a lot of the songs from this album, and we'll continue to support that. And of course, not a show goes by where there's not Charlie Rich music in my show, so that's a given.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it, Scott.
Well, Charlie, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I truly mean it. I really look forward to this interview, and I want to thank you for taking time to be on the show and share some of the great memories.
Well, the pleasure's all mine. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, I'm gonna play "Caught in the Middle" by the Malpas Brothers. We were talking about that, and I want to play that cut next off of this wonderful album. Feel Like Going Home. The songs of Charlie Rich, and then I'm gonna play some of Charlie Rich Jr.'s music too. And I want you to listen very carefully to this wonderful man's music. Thank you so much, Charlie. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. It's been a pleasure.